Hello, this is Dave Shestokas. Welcome to SAT Media Spotlight. I'm here today with Geno Young, candidate for United States Congress in the 1st Congressional District. We're going to talk some about why he's running, what he hopes to achieve, and some of his background. Thanks for joining us on SAT Media Spotlight.
Hi, Mr. Shestokas. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now you're running for United States Congress, the 1st Congressional District.
Mm-hmm.
Can you to begin? Where's the 1st Congressional District at? Can you describe
Well,
that?
it runs from about the middle of Chicago around the Loop all the way down to around Bourbonnais, and then it goes west to around about Lockport and Channahon.
So it's kind of a cosmopolitan.
Oh yeah, it's the entire district. It runs from the bottom of Chicago all the way down to around halfway around a little past Manhattan.
We'll talk a little bit more about maybe why you're doing this. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I'm a musician from Chicago. I was born and raised on the South Side, and I play in a band with my brothers. We play at church. I play percussion as well as vocals. I do vocals, and I just got into politics because I just really got sick and tired of seeing the foolishness that was going on in Washington. And I decided that it took a person like myself to step up and do something about it, and I just decided to go ahead and do something.
Wonderful. That's exactly what we need.
Thank you.
What's the major motivating factor? Is there a particular issue that you...
There is a particular issue. The politicians not listening to the people. When I saw what they did to President Trump, that's when I decided that I wanted to get into politics. Originally, I was running against Adam Kinzinger in the 16th district, but because I was after him after what he did, he was a part of the impeachment hoax. But after he decided he wasn't going to run again, I decided to come home and to really benefit my people. So.
Excellent. Now you said benefit your people.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking. You have some thoughts on the Democratic Party generally?
I do. If you look at it from a historical standpoint, the black community, we originally were a part of the Republican Party, but then the Democrats came in, and around the 60s, around the 1960s with the Great Society, they kind of raked us back over to their side. But if you look at it from a historical standpoint, the Democrats, they never ever had the well intentions of the black community in their heart, whether it was in slavery or Reconstruction or even up into the Great Society now, where a lot of people have been incentivized to latch on to the government and not to be independent as we can be.
Is that detrimental to your community rather than supportive?
Oh, it's very detrimental. Unfortunately, a lot of people, one of my favorite quotes is actually from Larry Elder, who says that the Great Society came in and it created a perverse incentive for black women to essentially marry the government and for black men to abandon their children. And I think that's something that we've seen, and it speaks a lot to the crime culture that we've seen, the crimes and the drugs in the 1980s and the 1990s. All of that was a part of that Great Society with the falling away and the destruction of the nuclear family.
That's an interesting term, crime culture. How would you describe crime culture?
Well, if you look back then, you see the gangs really became a prominent issue in Chicago as well as many other places like New York. You start to see more gangs, more drugs, just a huge falling away of the family, and not just in the family but in the church as well. A lot of the churches, unfortunately, did not reach out to the black community in the way that they used to, and because of that, people found, unfortunately, other things to get involved in. And it was very detrimental.
Very detrimental, okay, in many respects. Let's go back. We only touched a little bit on you, your history and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about your education. You said where you grew up. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
About Geno.
Well, I grew up on the South Side. I attended St. Albie's School, which is a smaller Catholic school on the South Side of Chicago. And then I graduated from there, and I went to St. Rita of Cascia High School in Chicago. And then after that, I graduated there, and I went to St. Xavier University, and I studied both political science and music education there until I decided to take a leave of absence to self-educate. When the indoctrination really got too tough, I decided that instead of someone telling me what was in the book, it would be better off if I read the book and got knowledge for myself. And that's actually how I really found my conservatism, by reading.
So you were unhappy with what they were trying to teach you in college?
I was very unhappy with it. Unfortunately, I didn't really find a place, St. Xavier as a place for free speech. And it was very unfortunate because colleges, as you know, have always been about debate and open and free discussion, but unfortunately that's not what we see anymore.
Okay, so you're a lifelong Chicagoan,
I
obviously.
am. Oh, yes.
Even though you're kind of young, you've probably seen What's your thoughts on how Chicago has evolved during the course of your lifetime?
Well, in my lifetime, what I've seen in Chicago has really just been the same thing. It really has not changed. We've had the exact same group of people doing the exact same groups of things, whether it's corruption or even the crime. Now, the one thing that has changed quite a bit is the crime. The crime has just gone off the deep end in the last couple of years.
Do you have some idea, some thoughts on how that and why that occurred?
Well, I think that it all comes down to accountability and the fact that we have people in office now who are more concerned with putting the handcuffs on the police than they are actually putting the handcuffs on the criminals. When you look at someone like Lori Lightfoot, who, given all that's going on with the Chicago gangs, is still attacking the police as of this week and last week, still attacking the Chicago police after all they go through. When you have that type of rhetoric coming from such a high place, you really can't expect it to go anywhere but down, and it's unfortunate.
How would you describe what you see as your role as a United States congressman?
Well, as a congressman, one thing I think that would be beneficial is if the people of the 1st District and the law enforcement of the 1st District have someone in there with their best interests at heart, and someone in there who will stand up for a law and order agenda, who will get some control over the southern border and stop the guns, stop the drugs from coming into the inner cities, and really just an ally. That's something that we haven't had. We have not had anyone in there who is willing to do anything about crime or even speak up about crime. I mean, Bobby Rush, I've never even heard him speak on Chicago crime.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
And he's pretty much been the congressman all your life.
He has been. He's been in there since 93, I believe, 1993. He's been there almost 30 years. And
longer than your life.
Longer than I've been alive, yes. Yeah, he's been in there quite some time, and unfortunately, nothing has happened. Nothing has changed.
So you never see the congressman? Have
you
ever met the congressman?
I've never met him. And I actually find it quite interesting. If you go around the district, some people don't even know who the congressman is. That's just how absent he is. And I think that's just a testament to the neglect and just the abandonment that we see in blue inner cities.
What do you think would be some of your legislative priorities once you get to the United States Congress?
Well, one of the first things I want to do is get some control and some accountability over China. I think that when China caused COVID-19 the worst pandemic we've had in the last 100 years, I think a lot of people walked away and they didn't really say anything about it, and a lot of Republicans kind of dance around the questions when you ask them what they want to do about it. But I think if we introduce legislation where the American people and American businesses can actually sue the Chinese Communist Party for what they've done, similar to how the 9/11 families are suing Saudi Arabia after the terrorist attacks, I think that would be beneficial, at least to put them on notice, to let them know that they're not going to get away with this. As well as I'd like to author legislation as well as to take some funding away from the CDC, NIH, and all these so-called health organizations that have done such a disservice to the American people, who really have done absolutely nothing to help us at all.
A big issue currently these days, in many respects, is education.
Yes.
And people talk about the federal government role in education. Do you think the federal government has a role, and if so, what do you consider it to be?
Well, education, I do believe, should be kept a state issue, but I do support school choice. I'm really big on school choice. If your family, or your child rather, is in a failing school, you should be able to take that child and the funds out of that school and put them into a place where their minds can thrive. But I do prefer it to be kept on a state level education.
So there should be local control?
Yes, definitely.
Over education?
Mm-hmm. And
in terms of foreign policy, you're a hard line on China?
Very hard on China. Not only have they caused the pandemic, but they still are intel. They through the Confucius Institutes, I understand that they send their students over here to steal information as well as spy on the American people. So I've just decided that someone needs to step up and do something about China. And the Olympics that are going on over there right now, it's a shame. It should not be happening. No one should be dealing with that right now.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Josh. I've been trying to.
Oh, that's
I've been trying. Well, he's going to have to edit that.
Oh, that's fine.
That's why I excused it to him.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine for you.
yeah, it's fine for you. It's a challenge for him now. But at any rate, so okay, that's your thoughts on China that we're talking about. And of course, the United States Congress does have a role to play in foreign policy when it comes to funding things and whatnot. What's your thoughts on foreign aid, generally speaking?
Well, I think that we need to make sure that the American people are taken care of first. The fact that we have thousands and tens of thousands of veterans living on the street, that's not okay. And if you're going to send all this money abroad, you need to do something for your people first. You can't help other people until you help your own citizens. And I'm just not big on interventionism. I'm not big on being the world police. I think America needs to see after our own assets. And then once you help yourself, once you get your own house in order, then you go and you try to help somebody else.
You have thoughts on immigration, sanctuary cities, those kind of things?
No.
You have no thoughts?
Well, no, I have many thoughts.
Okay, let's roll.
Well, as far as immigration is concerned, it has to be legal. You can't have people just hopping over the border, skipping over everyone who came in the right way. What's going on the border? We had some 2.2 million people come into the country last year. That's essentially like the entire state of Nebraska, the population crossing over into the country, and we can't have that. We have to have we have to finish the wall, and we have to have a system in place where only the people who are coming in the right way get in, and we have to be able to retrieve the people who are going about it the wrong way and take them out. We have to get them out of here. I mean, it's unfortunate, but they can't stay here.
So, can you kind of put together a bit of a summary why you're running for United States Congress?
Well, I'm running for Congress because for many years I've just been I've been demoralized by what I've seen in Congress, and specifically what I've seen in the first district. Bobby Rush, as I've said, has done absolutely nothing for the American people, and I think that it would be powerful if the American people who live in the first district actually have an ally, someone who they can talk to, someone who will actually be a friend of theirs in Congress, not just this face and just this name on a ballot, but actually a person that they know has their back, and someone who will take care of their interests and actually be there for them when they need them. I think a lot of people go to Congress and they want to be the next big thing or the next social media influencer, but it's not even about that. I'm about listening to my constituents and representing them. It's not about trying to make a name for myself. It's about helping people and being an influence for them in Congress.
You mentioned you're now conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, of course, in most of the world, or most of the media,
right.
You would stereotypically, if they're going to cast you as a stereotype, you're not the stereotypical Republican.
No, I'm not.
I imagine there's a story and a journey behind that because you grew up in Chicago,
mm-hmm.
In your community. Can you share with us that story about your journey?
Sure. Well, full disclosure, I was a Democrat. I was born into a Democratic family. All of my family were Democrats, but it wasn't until 2016 when I heard Donald Trump say these words. He said to me, well, he said over the internet.
It rang with
me, right? He spoke to my soul. He said, what do you have to lose? You live in the worst communities, you go to the worst schools, you have the worst of everything. What do you have to lose? And at first, that statement struck me, and I really didn't like it. But after a while, I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? We had one of our own in there for 8 years, and nothing changed. Absolutely nothing happened for the black community. He helped DACA Dreamers. He helped LGBTQ rights. But
You're talking about President
Obama, right? And he did absolutely nothing for the black community. And that's why I decided, you know what? Why don't I take a chance on this person? He seems to be an outsider. He's not a part of the establishment, so to speak. He's not a Mitt Romney type. So I took a chance on him, and that's how I really found my conservatism. And I began to read after that and educate myself accordingly, and that's
what did you do for reading and education?
Well, what I would read works from Mark Levin. I just started to read different things. Bob Woodson from the Woodson Center, he's great with his knowledge of the black community and how we've drifted away from the Republican Party. Just different influences like that. Shelby Steele is really great.
And do you find yourself kind of on a mission to share those things?
I do. Sometimes it might appear to be an ill-fated mission with a lot of people, but I do wherever I can just be knowledgeable. And I'm not trying to be, just to berate people. Like you see a lot of black conservatives, and they go after people, and they essentially make people think they're dumb for thinking the way they do. But it's really not their fault. They really don't know any better. I'm all about having a conversation, trying to win over a person's approval, opposed to just trying to inflict my own views on them.
Well, we hear a lot from situations when people make this transition,
mm-hmm.
how it affects their relationships in other spheres of their life. Have you experienced that?
I have. I've had people whom I grew up with, people I knew from first grade, contact me via Facebook Messenger and try to smear me. I've had people say they were going to show up at my house. I've had my own family members tell me that I was stupid, and Uncle Tom, we get a lot of that, and just all the foolishness that you can imagine I get, but the most empowering thing is when I do reach that one person who didn't know, and I'm able to have an intelligent conversation with them and really enlighten them about what's going on.
So you believe there's a path to winning the battle of hearts and minds?
Oh, certainly. But it takes a measured approach. You can't go in there telling people that they're stupid and that what they believe in. You can't just tell people they're dumb. You have to have a conversation with people, and I think that's something that's missing. A lot of people don't know how to have a conversation.
That is missing. That's a skill that.
Oh yeah.
It's a part of our life that doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't.
In the Twitter and
it's really,
Facebook and Instagram world.
Right. It's easy just to click on and tell someone, "Oh, you're an idiot for thinking this," but no, it's not about that.
And so, how do you respond when you do get that? Not so much in social media, because you can just block folks.
Right.
But in your personal interactions, when like you mentioned, members of your family.
Well, what I do is I try to educate them. I say, well, you want to talk about who I'm voting for? Well, who did you vote for and what did they stand on? And oftentimes I find it quite interesting that they can't even tell me one accomplishment. And I think that just speaks volumes. I mean, you're blindly voting for a person and they're not even helping you. You don't even know what they stand on. So it's all about educating people. And if I can be a help in leading someone from a destructive lifestyle, which is liberalism, I'm happy with that.
You call liberalism destructive?
I do.
Can you give some more meat to that?
Well, when you think about classic liberalism, it used to be about open and free and fair discussion. They may disagree with you, but they respected your First Amendment. Now, and it's really not liberalism, it's leftism. Now, leftism is a thing where they want to completely silence you. There is no conversation. If you say this, you're a racist, you're Hitler, you're a Marxist, you're a racist, you're Hitler, you're this, that, and other thing, and there is no conversation. And a classic liberal would have a free and fair debate, but that's missing now. They want to silence people and take people's voices away, so we can't have that.
Let's go back to a little bit more kind of personal stuff. You mentioned you're a musician.
I am.
We talked about this at a previous time. What kind of music do you play? What kind of music do you enjoy?
Oh, well, I'm very eclectic. I love Elvis. I like Frank Sinatra. I like Dean Martin. I like Prince. I'm really huge on Prince. I actually saw Prince live, and it was the happiest day of my life. Many different things. Phil Collins, Genesis.
Wow.
I'm very eclectic.
And you're a percussionist?
I am a percussionist.
So you're a drummer, right?
Yes.
For those of us who are not in that world,
yes,
you're a drummer. Outstanding. And but you do work in church, and do you guys do other kind of gigs besides?
We do weddings, parties, wherever we're needed, really. But mainly our work is at church, and I'm also a vocalist. I sing as well, so wherever we're needed.
Terrific. And so besides all that, is there a particular message that you would like to share with the audience as we share this SAT Media Spotlight?
Well, the message that I want to share is a message of unity and a message that there is an alternative. I know that for many years you feel like you've been left out. You feel like no one's listened to you, but I'm going to be that change for you. I'm going to Washington to work for you. This is not about me. This is about you. And if I can go there and be your ally in any way, that would just be the biggest blessing to me.
And I think it would probably be a big blessing to all of us, Geno. That would be wonderful. So it's Geno Young, running for United States Congress. Do you have a website up yet? Or?
I do. www.genoyoung.com.
How convenient is that?
Very convenient.
Geno, any other social media?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter and Getter. That's the conservative conservative Twitter. At Geno4Congress. You can find me on Instagram at official Geno Young.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Geno, for joining us on SAT Media Spotlight.
Thank you so
much.
It's
great to be with you. Hopefully we'll have a conversation again, and hopefully we'll have some opportunities to campaign together as time goes forward.
Certainly.
Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Mr. Shestokas. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thanks.